Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Juju Show, episode 20. I am your host, Rick Harding, and I'm here with the always awesome Kevin Monroe from the big data side of the world. How's it going, Kevin?
Hey, folks. Doing real well.
Yeah. You having fun? Did you miss me?
Nope.
I guess not everyone knows that. I was gone for a week, so I feel like I missed everybody because I was out for a week, and now I'm back. But because the show's every other week, no one probably knows.
Yeah, I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. See, tell me what I want to hear. That's what I like. All right. So we've got some good stuff for you this week. Let's start off with some community news. And the first one is an FYI warning. JAAS, Juju as a service, jujucharms.com is planning on going through some maintenance Thursday, August 31st between 1800 and 2200 UTC. So go type that into Google and figure out what that time means to you, wherever you're at in the world. But basically, there's a migration of some stuff going on. Should be a 10-minute outage window, but they're blocking that time off to have someone there ready and all that. So if you use JAAS, everything will stay up and running. Like your services won't go down and die in a fiery blaze. None of that will happen. It's just that you won't be able to create a new model while the migration stuff's happening. Basically, if you migrate data from one thing to another thing, you have kind of a data freeze time while that migration happens. Normal good stuff. The team sent an email out to the Juju mailing list. If you don't subscribe to that, make sure to subscribe. And you have me telling you, hello, beware. Cool. Everyone sufficiently warned. All right, good. Next up, we have a couple of promulgation requests. Woo! Graylog, a charm from the Graylog charming team, is getting that promulgated. I think that went through. And so if you're interested in Graylog, go check the charm out. If you're interested in contributing, participate, get in on the team, submit pull requests, make the charm more and more awesome, encapsulate all the good operational knowledge that we've got in our heads for it. Kind of cool. Another one is Grafana itself. Now this one, I think it did get done. Okay, cool. I think at one point in time it was requested and I hadn't seen it go through yet. So it is done now. So now you can just Juju deploy Grafana and have that go through. And I'm actually going to use Grafana in some stuff I'm talking about in a little bit. So that's very cool, charm. If you've not used Grafana, it's a really great way of building out dashboards. Much to Kevin's disappointment, I've replaced my Zeppelin use with Grafana use now. And it has some advantages. There's some things that aren't quite as nice, but there's some things that are much nicer and better looking on the graphics and things. It's kind of cool. So check out Grafana, and right now I've used it before, and when we talk about showing and graphing dashboards of Prometheus-based metric data over time in the past. And what I've actually been doing lately, I'll show is I'm actually adding MySQL support. So you can actually build a dashboard based on SQL queries to a MySQL database, which is kind of nice to do free-form query information like that. And in the world of kind of congratulations, I'm going to butcher this. Someone's going to have to help me. Oh, where does his name go? Frode? How do you say Frode?
Yep.
Okay, good. I got it right then. One of those shots in the dark might hit close to home. I apologize, but he applied for membership as an official charmer. Has done a lot of work on the OpenStack charms. You can see some MySQL bits, Neutron Rabbit, all that kind of stuff. Has gotten officially 2+2s on the list. I don't think anyone's quite gone and said, yes, it's official. It all kind of shook out today. So congratulations. Another charmer joins the ranks. Woo! Your cake and such are in the mail. Probably, maybe. Done. All righty, and I want to bring up the conjure-up development summary. They did a really good development summary that they put up this week, and there's some really kind of cool stuff in here. So if you don't know, conjure-up is kind of like a scripted, it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of things. It's a kind of an automated system for doing custom deployments of complex big software. And in the automation, you can use a bundle you start with, but bundles are pretty dumb. They're hard-coded, they're one thing, and they go out and do their work, and they do what they're told to do. What conjure-up does is take those bundles and make them bundles plus plus into what conjure-up calls spells. It allows it to be more dynamic, to have some tweaks to it. And one of the cool things is it's gained AWS native integration support, which means that your spell can actually do AWS specific things in the process of deploying that spell and bringing it all up to snuff, which is used in the case of the Kubernetes for setting up load balancers on AWS for the Kubernetes bundle that gets deployed. But you can see this as kind of an interesting way of really having, you know, intelligent bundles with some baked-in knowledge on the underlying cloud platform. So I'm really interested to see where that goes, how far it goes. It's used talking to ELB right now. You know, what's to prevent it from talking to other services in there in the future? I'd be kind of curious to see how that goes. You play with that at all?
So not specifically the Amazon Cloud native integration, but I use conjure-up all the time. It's just like you said. It's just magical bundles or bundles plus plus, I think is what you said, and that's a good good synopsis.
Cool. There's other things in there. There's an idea of add-ons, which is taking a base bundle and then allowing you to select at deployment time. I would also like these other things on it. You know, we often have like the Kubernetes kind of base bundle, but you can stick things on it like a beat stack for monitoring things, or maybe some kind of log stack for shipping off, logging off, and or whatever kind of thing. You know, the idea being that when you go through and say, I want X, I also want it to have these optional things kind of tacked on. So the add-on support's kind of interesting for building out a really easy to use, more complicated deploy. And the example here is Kubernetes with, is it Ds or Dies? I always mix it up.
I always call it DAAS.
DAAS, that's what it is. Sorry, see, I always mix it up very wrongly in all my ways. And so there's an idea of a Kubernetes bundle with DAAS integration out of the box. So kind of cool. So play around with it. Remember, these are features that are added for they're in there for all to use. So if you write your own spells, you know, it doesn't have to be the things that they're showing in the demo. It's basically put in some groundwork so that other people can come along and tack on top of it. So, you know, using things like add-ons beyond the kind of Kubernetes realm. There's a lot of room for that. So there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I really wanted to highlight it because that kind of went by and I was like, ooh, I didn't know all those bits were in there.
Yeah, Big Data is looking at the add-on functionality as well. But, you know, in our bundles, we have an opinion about monitoring and logging and things like that. But, you know, maybe you've already got a Nagios infrastructure set up, right? There's no reason why you have to use Ganglia just because we thought that was a good idea. So paring down our bundles a bit and supporting different add-ons is on our radar for sure.
Very cool. So that's the news I've got. You have any news? What's going on in Big Data World? Anything to note?
Man, we are
working hard.
We're snapping like it's hot.
Snapping. You know, that's my to-do list. After this show, my next thing to do is to go work on building out a snap of something.
Hey, you know what? I got lots of ideas for you. You need help coming up with an application to snap? You just let me know.
Oh, I got to snap my application, but maybe I need to practice some. You have to let me know. All right, so you're snapping like it's hot.
Yeah. So over the last couple of weeks, we've done a couple of sort of proof of concept snaps on things like Apache Pig, Apache HBase, some of those utilities that don't actually provide services. They're not very complex. Just getting our feet wet into delivering these apps as snaps. And then this iteration, I've tackled Hadoop itself, right? So Hadoop is much more complex, has a lot of moving parts, interfaces, services that need to start and stop, and things like that. So it's been a wild ride, but we're plugging along. I think our goal for October is to have 15 applications snapped, and we've got 4 so far. So we're making steady progress to that goal.
Cool.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing how that works out. That sounds awesome. Do me a favor. A conception I have is that deploying stuff with a snap will be faster than deploying it straight from like packages and Python dependencies and all that kind of stuff. True or false? Will the actual deployment time go down at all?
Yeah, so I think it depends really on your pipe to the snap store versus your pipe to your apt repository, right? So when I apt install Hadoop, it pulls in 75 things, 300 megabytes, right? Versus the snap, which has all those dependencies baked into it, snap install Hadoop, to me is much faster, but I don't know if that's just my
That's true.
quick.
Your stuff's often already got depends. The thing I'm looking at is Python based, and so it does a lot of pip install the following stuff, and of course pip does things one at a time. And so one of my big hopes is that as I snap my stuff up, it will get much faster to deploy because it won't have walking through all the Python dependency package things and pip installing the whole list of stuff over and over. So
yeah, I think anytime you have to reach out and make a separate web request for some, you're adding that round trip or whatever, and pip install's got to be the worst for how many things that it does serially. You're like, come on. And given the fat pipe to the snap store, it's been super fast to me. So I will predict that your deployment times will go down 50%.
Awesome. I like predictions. I like it. All right. So the next thing, our main topic I want to talk about charming today, because you know what? I had there was a great email to the mailing list from, and again, I'm back to butchering names because I'm not good at them. And I lost the link. Where'd the link go? Here it is. The link. This came from, oh, this isn't the first message in the thread, because Tom Barber replied. All right, so it's FXIL is the username. And he's got his name here somewhere. Feng Zay. I don't know. But looks like he's an engineer out of Lenovo. He was wondering, he was trying to work on a charm. And basically the charm would deploy and then it would hit some kind of error in his code. And then he was trying to basically redeploy it. Well, of course, the charm installs software and does stuff. And so that got frustrating really quick because he was like, hey, I would like this to go faster. So being that I've just been working on charming the last few days myself, and then I was actually helping someone in IRC who was like, hey, I've got my unit is stuck with an error message and I want to try to upgrade it to a new charm revision that I fixed the bug that it hit, but it won't let me because it's in an error condition. So, help, how do I correct this? And I showed them this option and they were like, I didn't know that existed. So like in the same week here, we've had several people reaching out not knowing about something. And that's a key indicator because I had to learn it too. So that's a key indicator that I should share this with the world. So, all right, groundwork. I've got this model here. This model I am playing around with updating the Grafana charm to support MySQL support, as I was mentioning. And what it actually is this is my app, this Gypsy Danger app. It's a Python app, and it parses Apache logs and shoves parsed clean data into MySQL or MySQL. And then what I want to do later is have Grafana get that information out of MySQL and draw me pretty charts so that I can impress the bosses and get promoted and all that fun and joy. So what I was doing is I have this little charm, and it's if I can not touch the thing. There's not a whole lot to this thing right now. All it does is it supports connecting to Grafana and to MySQL. But what I'm going to note is right now, let me go here. This is what it looks like currently. I've got MySQL, I've got my app, I've got it talking to Grafana, but it's not currently related to MySQL. And it's telling me that. It's saying, hey, I am blocked because I don't have a MySQL relationship. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm cheating. You guys know I already did this behind the scenes. Dope. So relate MySQL DB to Gypsy Danger. And then let's go back to my perpetually running status and see what happens. So boom, that just popped up. My relation's going in. It's going to do some work. Step one, I encourage everyone to just run debug log in a window. I just keep this thing running because errors and things will show up in here and why they happen. So like if someone just emailed the list before the show today asking, hey, I got this hook failed. What's wrong? How do I fix it? And my reply was, we need more info than that. So here we can see my hook for my DB relation changed. So, oh no, my charm has broken something and I don't know what. If I look at debug log, I see right at the end of this Python trace back here that I try to log out the host name of MySQL, and it's failing that there's no attribute called hostname. So what have I done wrong? So I went and looked at my code where I did this, and it's this line 43 here. So I'm calling MySQL.hostname, except, you know what? And I even see I did it correct down here. because I accidentally or purposely broke this for demo purposes. That's not supposed to be host name, just supposed to be host. So I typoed. That's wrong. Dope. All right, so I am fixing my charm. I'm going to rebuild it. And that's going to take a second because my laptop's not as fast as I always want it to be. And while that's building, you know, basically I'm now stuck. I've got my log, I've got my thing, and there's nothing I can do. What you may go is, hey, Rick, isn't that what resolved is for? And normally, if I just go through and say, hey, resolve it, now let's go watch it. And see if I can catch it. Normally, it'll go to working for a second, and then it'll go right back to an error. And you can often see this in the logging here if it tries. All right, this is done. While this is done building, let's go ahead and upgrade it. I'm just going to upgrade my charm with my latest one that I just built. And this is going to fire off and go, upgrade, please. Except you can't upgrade. It's an error state. It's all broken. And if I try to resolve it, it just keeps retrying the broken bad code. It keeps rerunning it over and over again. Because by default, Juju will retry hooks in case something isn't ready yet, or there was a network timeout, or all kinds of reasons. You know, we found that retrying was generally a good thing unless you're doing charm development and you know you broke something. So what you actually have to do here is not just watch it do that. You have to say, hey, I want to mark it resolved, but I don't want to retry. So stop the retries. And when I do that, it will go through. And now notice it's telling me that this is the hook that failed and why it's an error. And now that goes away. Oftentimes, if you've got a complicated charm or the breakage is in certain places, you may have to walk through several different hooks. It looks the same because it all says error, hook failed, but you'll see the name of the hook will change, which means you have to run resolved no retry several times. You need to run it once for each hook that's failing until you can get Juju to say, look, lie to me and tell me it's okay. And then once it's all fooled that everything's okay, the upgrade charm will go through. And when the upgrade charm goes through, you get to run your fresh new code that you fixed in your charm. Now, of course, because I did this a couple times now, what I actually did was corrupt out another charm. So notice that my charm's happy now. It's good and ready. And now Grafana's unhappy. Now, I had to not prepare this. So, and here's why. SQLite saying that I violated a unique constraint because I basically re-sent data to Grafana that I had working earlier, and then I broke it, and now I'm trying to refix it. And so this is telling me being disconnected and reconnected to the same database more than once. So that's my fault. There's some more work for me to do. But this is just kind of like, this is that iteration run-through technique of charm development of watching what errors, fixing it back and forth, right? Like just keeping at it. And here you can see about things restarting. Looks like it restarted itself and will go into an error again because that's broken still. I don't know. What do you think? Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, it does. One other thing I'd like to note, because this bites me a lot with the automatic retry, in development, when I expect things to break, or at least expect other people's stuff to break, in development, sometimes it's nice to set the whole model to never retry the hooks, right? So there's a model config that you can do as well. So when you Juju add model and you say, I forget the flag, you're going to have to Juju help.
I can Juju model config and it will show me all the different things.
Yeah.
So let me do that, and then let me grep for retry. I'm going to guess it has that in this string. Oop.
Yeah.
Oh, so I can set that to false. So Juju model config. Oh, that's going to suck to type this out, but let's see if I can do it. Challenge accepted equals false. Oh, now let's try to pull it back out again. Hey, see, even you learn something new all the time. All right, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, if you're developing. The other thing I wanted to note,
wait. Oh,
go ahead.
I'm not done talking. What I don't know if this affects the resolved command. I just know that this will, as soon as you encounter an error, sometimes I don't want to see that hook retried and maybe I've missed the error somewhere. I'd really like to fix it up front. So um, there's just two ways to sort of skin this thing. First, you can tell your model never to retry the hook, which you've done with that config. And then with the resolved no retry flag for a specific action or a specific invocation of that. That's the other way to tackle it.
Cool. Yeah, that's helpful. The one thing I did hit was that the Grafana charm does something really interesting. It tracks data sources that have been connected to it in the reactive state system, and that is not automatically white. Like that's kind of outside of Juju. It's in the reactive framework that's allowing people to build the charms in nicer and easier fashion, and it doesn't remove it. So what I found at one point, I was trying to debug why my stuff wasn't working, and it was because I had disconnected and retried it a couple of times. And so the state had, hey, I already know about that data source, and so it didn't rerun and didn't re-execute code I was expecting it to execute. So it's just not a silver bullet, by all means. One thing I was doing earlier, I flat out, every time I rebuilt the charm, I would just deploy it, and I would call it, instead of gypsy-danger, I would just call it G1. And then when it broke or whatever, I would redeploy it again as G2. And then G3. And using the LXD provider locally, you can get pretty fast iterations. I mean, my charm is cheating in that right now it's kind of an empty charm. It just builds relations. If you look at my install steps still has the sample stuff here where it just says, you know, and this might even be interesting about iterating on the relations of things you need before you get into all the nitty gritty of putting your code in place and starting a bunch of services that, you know, really, I just want to connect to MySQL, get a connection string. And then when I connect to Grafana, I want to send it that connection string. And, you know, I don't need a lot else while I work this part of it out. Once this works really smoothly and I snap my awesome Python application, then it'll be even better because then I'll snap install it and all that. So there's a bunch of tips and tricks. Iterate faster. I really wish there's been work. People have a lot of tricks for making the LXD provider faster, from making sure it uses cached images to even creating custom images and then using those as a baseline that has stuff already installed. And I mean, there's a bunch of packs and things people have that LXD manually in an effort to get just to kind of go faster for development. I don't have a good list of those handy at the moment, though. But if you have any, share them with us. Hit us up on the comments here, on Twitter. I'm at MITechie, or the Juju mailing list is the best place to get that conversation going. Any other tips and tricks for charmers? Anything you can think of?
Yeah, you know, I'm just sending a link in Pound Juju. Since you mentioned LXD production ready, I don't know if people have seen this Markdown document that lives in the LXD source, but it's pretty good. It does things like set certain limits. If you've ever run into the problem where you get this cannot open any more files or whatever that error message is, I found that this document helps quite a bit to address some of those things. For LXD.
Yeah, I remember when that was kind of written up. Basically, I know one of the key factors of that was there were some issues with large deployments in LXD locally, because you need to bump some kernel parameters in order for LXD to be able to open enough files and such on the system. And so back in the day of, like, you know, we can't, I think it was around 20, after about 20 LXD containers with Juju having full systems and charms running and all that, it tends to just about run out of file descriptors and other limitations on most systems. So that document is a good link on how to expand that if you really want to push something large. You know, I've got a double 6-core 32 gig of RAM desktop with SSDs and stuff, so it can mirror a nice small cloud when I need it to with LXD. Hey, I want a bunch of 2 gig instances. How many do you want? About 20 of them. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. But I wanted to kind of share that as a bunch of people are hitting it all at the same time. And, you know, if you can make it faster to iterate on charms, and you can make it, I mean, you do that over and over again, it's one of those, you know, small win equals big gain, real nice and easy. So I look forward to seeing what other tips people have. And until then, we'll see you next time. Have a good week.
See ya.